All right, well, thank you all for joining us this morning. My name is Berkenda, and you are at the Orange Chamber of Commerce Eggs and Issues. Welcome, everybody. Today's segment is going to be especially fun. We have our special guest here, Supervisor Vicente Sarmiento. Yeah. As you all know, this is an open format, so the supervisor is here for you, our business community, to answer any questions. But so just by show of hands, you can let me know you have a question. I want to get all of your questions answered if there are any. But before we do that, I would love to just read a little bit about you, if you don't mind. I have a very short bio.
As long as you don't make me blush, that's all right.
I'm going to try not to. I mean, this should be no surprise. Your team was great in sending this over. Supervisor Vicente Sarmiento moved to Santa Ana from 𝘠𝘆, Bolivia in 1965. He attended UC Berkeley, where he met his wife, Eva, and both earned Juris Doctorate degrees. They reside in the Saddleback View neighborhood with their 3 children. He has lived in his home with his wife and 3 children, whom they hope will learn the value of public service and contribute to their community. In 2007, he joined the Santa Ana City Council for Ward 1, winning re-elections in 2008, 2012, and 2016. In 2020, he became Santa Ana's mayor. Despite pandemic challenges, he led Santa Ana to low COVID-19 rates and high vaccination rates, also championing premium pay for essential workers and tenant protections. Under his leadership, Santa Ana saw a $44 million surplus, AA credit rating, and recognition as one of California's best managed cities. In 2022, he was elected to the Orange County Board of Supervisors, representing the 2nd District. As supervisor, he proudly represents the 2nd District, which includes all of Santa Ana and portions of Orange, Anaheim, Tustin, and Garden Grove. Supervisor Sarmiento has already made history by being only the 3rd Latino in 134 years to serve on the board and the 1st county supervisor from Santa Ana since 1948. Supervisor Sarmiento has a history of public service, serving on various boards, including the Orange County Water District, San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency, and National Association of Latino and Elected Appointed Officials. That's a lot.
That is a lot. It sounds
and
like
I
a lot.
only, just so that you know, I didn't read all of the boards. He's on like 20 boards, which is amazing. So welcome again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Berkenda. So I want to give a special shout out to Berkenda because she said Vicente really well. And so, but you all can call me Vince. That's easier. I know a lot of friendly faces in here, so it's so great to be here with all of you. Thank you for the invitation to the chamber. Let's give our hosts, Sean and Lillian, a big round of applause here at Orange Cafe Bistro. Thank you, sir. Thank you for having us in your space, and thank you all for taking the time. So I want this to be more conversational. I was with you all in 2019, I think, when we met, I believe, near the train station. It might have been the old spaghetti factory. I'm not sure if that was there. Which restaurant it was, but I think that it was a great conversation. I was mayor. I had just become mayor in Santa Ana at the time, so we were talking about just regional issues and how our cities kind of blend together, because we have boundaries amongst cities, but they're invisible boundaries to our residents and businesses. So it's just great to be with all of you. As Berkenda was saying, I've been in public service for quite a while. I enjoy it, but it does have its challenges, and hopefully what we can do here today is just have a conversation. I can tell you a little bit about what I've learned since I've been on the county board, because I was on the city council since 2007 and then mayor in 2020 in Santa Ana during a really rough time. But I think we all are bouncing back, and so we're really excited about what we can do at the county board. So again, I'm just really happy to be here. I want to introduce my chief of staff who's here. She's kind of the brains behind the operation of what we do at our office, 𝘰𝘰𝘵, who's right there. And so any good news you can come share with me. Any bad news, 𝘰𝘰's right there to go ahead. If we're doing something wrong.
She's great, by the way.
Yeah, she is great. And so, we're just so happy to be led by, I have some policy aides that are really talented. They work in different spaces in transportation, healthcare, law enforcement. And so we do have a really, really good team wrapped around us. And I know the chamber does as well. And, some of your board members, I'm a big fan of Patty's, and, I've known her for a while. So, so I'm just really, really glad to be with all of you, because I've gotten to know Orange pretty well. And even though I represent 5 cities, all of Santa Ana and large portions of Anaheim and Orange, Tustin and Garden Grove, for whatever reason, the intersection between my life and Orange has been really profound. So my mother lives in the city of Orange. My sister lives in the city of Orange. And I've just had this sort of bond with the city. And I've gotten to know your city council members and your mayor really well. By the way, they're really great people. In addition to just being good public servants, they're just really, really decent human beings who want to see good things for the city. So I we could go on and on, but I will share with you, I was married here in the city of Orange, so that's something that is really special. My wife and I were married at 𝘰𝘨𝘨𝘴, which is the church right off of Hughes by Chapman, and we were married in the original small chapel before they grew up and went into the bigger, larger facility. But we grew up, we got married there. And my family, some family members lived in the old 𝘕𝘓𝘵 neighborhood right across the street. So there's some good Orange cred that I have. I used to skateboard at Eisenhower Park. We would take we would take the bus, north on Tustin all the way up there, and then go hang out at the Orange Mall. So that was those were our weekends. Those were our getaways when I was a kid. So we just love the city, and I know that our team really loves working with all the staff at the city, but the chamber now. I just want you to know that you have a home at our office. So if there's anything that we can do, we are working on doing a little bit more economic development engagement. County really doesn't do that, and I know one of the questions we can get into later is, what does a supervisor do?
We're going to get there.
Yeah, because everybody knows what a council member does. Everybody knows what a mayor does, but very few people. And this was a struggle for me when I was kind of knocking on doors. People would say, well, why are you, what does who do you supervise? What is this role? And I said, I don't think I supervise anybody. They supervise me. And, but it is sort of an odd, role, but it is a lot more expansive, and it has a lot more, authority and powers than, I expected. But we're all blessed to live in, I would say, one of the most beautiful counties in the country. We're the 6th largest county in the country, and we have over 3.2 million residents. So it's a very diverse group of residents. We have, a coastline, we have mountains, we have urban areas. The district that I represent is one of the more urban areas. It represents, sort of the core of our county. But I think it's been, a real eye-opener for me to see that as a former mayor that led one of the largest cities with many challenges, coming to the county, what it really comes down to are relationships between, municipal government and county government and our federal and state partners. So to the extent that those things are really important to all of you as, business owners, as residents, as people who care about your community, that's something that's really important for me. And, I just want to say the reason I can sit upright and have good posture is because of my friend, Dr. right here. So he worked on my back. So I want to give him a shout out because I used to be slouched over. Now I can kind of sit up. So to give him a round of applause. And I think and he's with, and he, even more importantly, he's got his son with him. So yeah, my son doesn't travel with me anymore. He stopped.
Well, let's get into some questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I know you've been around, hello, in the office for about 16 months. That transition. I would love to hear about your transition. So that was basically a city council to mayor to supervisor. What do you think is the biggest difference between being mayor and being a board of supervisors?
So one of the big things is, I think, the expansiveness of the area. So before, as a council member, I represented what we used to call wards, which is just a sort of a district, but in Santa Ana we call them wards. So it's a very confined area. And then, being mayor, you represent the city, and our city was, the city of Santa Ana was close to 330,000 in size. But then moving on to the county, you're now representing 5 cities, at least in our district, and really large cities, right, with really complex issues. So getting to know, each area that I didn't know well, even though, our family, as Berkenda was saying, we arrived here in Orange County and specifically in Santa Ana in 1965. The county was much different back then. You all remember, those of you who have been here for a while, a lot of orange groves that we no longer see, and a lot less traffic. Just a lot more business and a lot more commerce that goes on here. that we didn't see. But we still keep that sort of small town charm here in the county. But I think that transition was difficult. I didn't have a staff as council member and mayor, so it's really interesting to have people that want to help. That because I think I used to do that by myself. So now they're able to help me do analysis, research, prepping for things like this. And so that is really a huge difference for me, just having to work with professionals, right, that know their areas really well. Like I was saying, we can really dive into some areas. But I think for me, it's been more getting to know areas outside of, the city of Santa Ana that I got to know so well, because I served 3 terms from 2007 to 2018. 2020, and then as mayor 2020 to 2022. So I got to know the city well, but really you don't start seeing what the other cities are doing, and now learning about Anaheim, Orange, Tustin, and Garden Grove has been really our task to get. One of the things that we did initially was to meet with your mayor and the council members of your city, just to ask them, what are the issues that you educate us on? So it's really more learning that these first 16 months have been getting to know small spaces like this, and how we can help Sean and Lillian be successful, and make sure that we know that at the county, whatever we're doing, we're leaning into making sure that hopefully the permitting process for him when he applies for his environmental health permits are streamlined, they're fast, they're efficient, and he can get some support. So those are the things that we're trying to make sure that we continue to do.
And I know that you had made one of your goals to meet with all of the city council members of your district, which is like really well over 2,000 people. It's a lot of people. But in specifically meeting with our team here, our city council, do any highlights come to mind of some of the items that you were able to accomplish with our city council in our city? Yeah,
so I met with the ones especially that are in our district, but some that are outside our district as well, just to get to know everybody and the dynamics. So I'm not sure if you know the area, well, you probably do, the 𝘰𝘕 area, where it's unincorporated. So it's an island, it's a county island that's not governed by the city, but it's really governed by the county. So it's an area that has had some neglect, has had some issues in the past. We took a walking tour of it and realized there needs to be some love, right? Sidewalks are in disrepair, some of the public infrastructure there. And it's one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city. So it's really an incredible place because you have generations of people that have lived there. And one of your council members, 𝘰𝘕 invited us there. So she's been a really strong advocate for making sure that the county be more present. And so she invited us there, and she's lived there. And, she just had a loss in her family. Her mother, who was 98, I believe, passed away. She was blessed. But the parents took me out and also walked with me, who had lived there, most of their lives. And so they sort of shared their immigrant experience, and for them to see their daughter become a councilwoman was just a real, sense of pride. But she brought us out and talked to us about the 𝘰𝘕𝘵 Basin area. So it's county property, but look, it's right within the city. So she wanted some restrooms there, so when people go and enjoy that park and enjoy that basin, they'll have a place to go to the restroom. But also she's advocating for additional lighting that we're working on with her together. She also is talking to us about doing a monument to the, I believe it's the Ramirez family. So the Ramirez family was a named plaintiff in the Westminster case. That was the landmark case for Brown v. Board of Education. So Mendez v. Westminster challenged segregation because we had segregated schools here. And so she found a family that was one of the named plaintiffs that really did a lot of the work. Those of us who are lawyers know that even though your name may be on the actual briefings, there are plaintiffs when there's a class, because this was a class action lawsuit. You have to, be deposed, go to depositions, there's interrogatories. And the family that I guess in Orange was really, really vital to that is still here. And so we want to make sure that they're recognized and they have a marker that goes back to the history of, what happened here. Because, again, Mendez v. Westminster was so important to Brown v. Board of Education that desegregated schools nationally. So, it's a really, it's a piece of history, and it's something that I think, Orange County had a role in that, and specifically Orange. Please.
Where is it?
So, there was a school that is now a shopping center. So it's right off of Champman. It's called La Carreta, that area there. And so there was a school, and it's interesting. Councilmember Gutierrez was explaining that there was a street, and across one side of the street was sort of the Anglo school, and then the other one was for kids of color, right? So she wants to put a marker there, so everybody knows that school, those schools once stood there, and because of the family that's still here, it no longer, that no longer exists. But it's a really, I think to me, a really important place for the County of Orange to identify and celebrate, right? That we were part of the solution, right? And so, that's just one of the things I think that,
Right.
Councilmember Gutierrez, she's got a long list of things she has me
I know,
to do.
she has so many.
When I talk to her, I'm like, we always have a notepad because she has so many things that she wants to discuss and
That's what's
improve.
good to have a team. I know she's got a long list of things, as does everybody. I mean, there's so many good things that can be done. Let's talk about the late Supervisor Bill Steiner. I know that you guys are planning to honor him. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and the champion there has been Councilmember Dimitri. So he really, early on told us that he wanted to change the name, Steiner Way, and so the late Bill Steiner was a county supervisor who did a lot of work and advocacy for children's rights. So I know he worked with Orangewood, I believe, really closely, and so his legacy is something that, again, for the city of Orange and really the county, because he did a lot of his work at. I think he was a school board member, and then he went on to the Board of Supervisors. But his advocacy was really strong on children's rights. So that's something that for me is really important, because our county, again, needs to see and remember we had a lot of champions that did these things. So, children didn't have a lot of advocates, and so there was, abuse, there were rights that were sort of overlooked, and because of, Supervisor Steiner's leadership, we now have different policies, and, there's protections in place. But I think recognizing that piece of the county with his name, I know, his son is now a judge, and he has, family members that are really involved in the community. But I think it gives us, again, a sense of pride. I think these markers, these different places that we can go to and realize people love this county. I mean, they've dedicated their lives. And so we do have a lot of really strong personalities that I hope with time we don't forget. And, our kids learn about, like, well, who was Supervisor Steiner? Who were the Ramirez family members? And, why do they get involved, and why is it important for us? I'm going to make a quick plug for my son. So he just won a scholarship, Truman Scholarship. So it just goes to show our kids listen. So I would drag my, son around, when they were much younger, and so he was paying attention, I guess, when he was going with us. So he's now a third-year law student a third-year student at UCLA, applied for the Truman Scholarship, which is a scholarship for public service. And he competed against all of the, UCLA students who applied for the scholarship. He was selected to represent the entire university. And he went up against students from MIT, Brown, Stanford, and Berkeley, and others, and he was selected to represent California. And so he will now be sent to, like, an institute in DC to learn about this and do graduate studies in public policy. But it just goes to show how important, like, what we do in public service, in commerce, for our families and our generations to follow. They're paying attention.
And if I might add, he was the first student from his high school, correct? And like the first student in 15 years from UCLA. So it's a really big deal.
Yeah, I get to plug that. I just wanted to plug that for him.
I'll continue to talk about him.
If he was here, he'd be like, enough. All right, stop. But since he's not, I know that.
Great honor.
I think you worked on him too, Dr. Sense, didn't you? Because he was a very good basketball player. But I think you stood all our family up right now.
While we're still talking about council and honors, I do want to commend your office. I know that you, and I believe it was also Councilmember Gutierrez, who put together the first fair at the @𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝑀edina Resource Center.
Yeah.
And that was over last summer, I believe.
It was, and we were supposed to be at Grijalva Park. So it was supposed to be a beautiful sunny day that day. It rained, and it was, and so we had to pivot really quickly. So we moved to 𝘊𝘆𝘆𝘆𝑀edina. And so the principal and school district were really helpful. We made a quick pivot. It's funny, we had a resource fair this past Saturday at Centennial Park, had to move to Valley High School for the same reason that we're just getting a lot of rain on weekends, and that kind of interferes with some of our stuff. But it was the first time that the county had done a resource and community fair in that part of Orange, and I think it was really successful. A lot of people came out to enroll for Medi-Cal because I'm also a director at 𝘕𝘂𝘈𝑚𝑎. And 𝘕𝘂𝘈𝑚𝑎 is a county health plan for our seniors, our low-income folks, and disabled as well. And so we now have close to 1 million members. And so that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? It shows that there's a really high need in our county for health care at no cost, right? But the idea is that even though we're one of the wealthier counties in the country, we still have a segment of our community, almost 33%, that need subsidized health care. And so we know that what's good about the plan is that we lean into a lot of other things, but we try to focus in on prevention and making sure that people don't fall into sort of catastrophic illnesses and end up in the emergency room. We do a lot of preventive care. For those of us I know who are lawyers, I know that I saw a lot of that in my practice. And so we're now looking at how we can build out this health plan, because it is a $4 billion agency, and a lot of people don't realize, healthcare is such a vital part of our county. We're aging a lot quicker than maybe other counties are, so we know we have sort of that silver tsunami that we're talking about. Many of our elder residents are going to be needing care, and it's different sort of care than maybe for some of us who are still younger, like Berkenda, and I'm part of that silver tsunami, and so but we do need to realize that we have an aging population, so we have to be prepared for that, because that's something that's going to demand different efforts on behalf of healthcare.
Well, we have a lot of our business owners and business and community members here today, and so what I'd love to do is kind of switch a little bit and talk about what we're doing with the business community. So I saw that you guys, or that the county, is hosting a supplier outreach event, a giant event, on May 16th. Would you be able to tell us a bit about that and how people here could possibly get involved?
Yeah, so keep that date in mind, May 16th. So for those of you who don't know, the county has, and maybe Yasi, you can remind me on the amount, but the amount of contracts and vendors that we work with is really, really large. We're a county that works with not only nonprofit vendors, but for-profit vendors to provide services. So what I've always tried to advocate is for us to keep those contracts local, right? Versus somebody who's out of county or out of state sometimes. If we can keep those dollars here, there's a multiplier effect with those dollars. So I think that it's, how many contracts do we have? So imagine those $13 billion concentrated here, right? And a lot of those contracts that are in the county of Orange, we can keep those dollars here. So we're real excited about the event, because it sort of reintroduces the county and making ourselves available to all of you. And the contracts are sometimes small in nature, sometimes larger. So when it comes to information, I think we have some forms that we brought here for you all. But more importantly, if you can reach out to our office and let us know what you need to do, if you have, yourselves, businesses that want to participate with others, we can certainly be that liaison between you all and the conference and make sure that you're prepared to, provide the right information. We're able to select you because it's important for us to just keep those dollars here local.
I think an important part about it is the training as well. It's like, don't be afraid to apply, because there's the steps, like you're saying, your office can help provide people with the steps and the information to be able to do that. Yeah. So if you've never done it, still
just I would say just work with our office. I think we'll be able to go ahead and kind of help you navigate through that, and that's really what the message is here today, is just to know that you have an office that you can come to. The staff is really great, and we want to make sure that you see that as your office. And that's one of the things when I was mayor that there was a little bit of sort of a adversarial, healthy, competition from municipal and county government that we want to break down. And for the business community, especially, we want to make sure that the business community knows that they have an office, not just at the federal and state level and local level, but at the county level as well. So, just make sure you take a card from us and reach us, and we'd be happy to help you out. I mean, we've worked with, businesses like CNC Development on housing issues in the past, and we've known Todd and Barry for years, and it's funny. I mean, we become, there's not only professional relationships, but you become, friends over time, and you realize, a lot of the great work that they do in the affordability space on housing is something that I really believe in, right? And I know that it's difficult for me to look at my children and realize they may not be able to afford to live in the county that they were raised in. So it's a challenge that we're trying to overcome, because we want our, especially when our kids go off to college, we want them to come back here and use some of that capital, intellectual investment that they've acquired here. And so finding them an affordable place to live that, makes it easy for them to stay in the county that they love is important for us. We don't want to, we don't want to lose those folks.
Thank you. Well, I know something else your team mentioned that may not be announced yet is that you're working with the Environmental Health Agency to streamline processes for new businesses. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What does that timeline look like, and what might it look like once you all are done with it?
Yeah, so, Sean's listening, so we're going to tell him, Sean, we're going to let him in on a secret. So we're trying to make sure that we improve the timeline when it comes to your permitting. So I know that that's probably not, something that, we do as efficiently as we'd like. It's sort of a good problem, bad problem, right? We have a lot of applications that are being processed for new businesses and existing businesses. So there's a backlog. So I think the wait time right now is about 4 weeks. We want to reduce that because I think it was at 6 weeks. So we've made some headway. So we're trending in the right direction. But I think, what I used to hear as mayor for many years was, just give us predictability, give us efficiencies, and make things as as prompt as possible, right? Because businesses, to them, time is money, and unpredictability and uncertainty is also something that's really difficult. So if we can reduce that time, when Sean and Lillian go and apply, then they can turn things around quickly in their own, business decisions. So we had something at the city that we may want to introduce at the county is called an accelerated review. And a lot of times you pay an enhanced fee just to get things done quicker. It does help. We can go outside and bring in people who can do the review in advance, but we are just trying to make sure that some businesses can't wait. And they're small. They're not part of a large franchise or independently owned. There is no safety net for them. So if we can make things really fast and efficient and easy, right? So I know we have one of our team members in our office, Carlos Valenzuela, by the way. Make sure that you reach out to him. He's working with our environmental health staff, making sure to turn things around a lot quicker. So we just again, that's one of the many things that we're trying to see how we can just make life easier for a lot of our small businesses to continue to prosper.
We appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions? I take a little pause here. I've been asking all the questions. I know someone's got to have something. Anybody? Yes. She just wants to smile. If you have something. No? Okay. All right.
I know I didn't cover everything, so I mean,
there's no way. I have more questions, not to worry. He looks worried. Okay, so I know we had Chairman Wagner here. He's one of our most frequent guests. I think he visits us about once a year, which we love. We love having him. But he talked about budget. Now it's been about, I think he was here about 11 months ago. So he mentioned budgets being a little bit tighter as we're heading into this year. Not to worry, but tighter. So where are we with that?
Yeah, so I think all of us have got our eyes on Sacramento, right? We know that they're going through a budget challenge, and the numbers are, I guess depending on who you ask, they'll give you some different numbers. But we will be facing a deficit, and the county is a $9 billion agency, and so a lot of what we do depends on federal and state dollars flowing to us. So when there's a deficit, being faced by Sacramento, we're going to feel it down here. I think, we've been pretty prudent and solid. I don't think there's anything that we have some serious challenges with, at least for the foreseeable future. But we are going to be looking at things a little bit more critically, making sure that we have our eye on that and make sure we don't expend more than we bring in. So as far as, having a real critical moment, it's not critical, but it can be if we're not aware. And we're hoping that, good forethought that we've had here in the county, and only having been here 16 months, I was surprised to see that there's been a lot of planning to have reserves in moments. And again, when I was mayor, I left the city with a $40 million surplus for that reason, right? Mm-hmm. Because I knew that even though things were solid there, we had a AA credit rating, businesses were coming out of the pandemic and were being supported. We knew that there was going to be a lag time between actually opening back up and being solid. But I think the county has done that as well. So it was a really welcome thing for me to see that there had been some planning in making sure that if we do face some challenges, the county will have some resources forward. 𝘊𝘪𝘆𝘆𝘆, the same thing. They have, some reserves that they have on hand going forward. So I don't see our county being as challenged with that as some others. And I think that's because, we've always been, I think the bankruptcy that occurred here in the county really sort of made us reflect on making sure we live within our means. And I'm actually a former bankruptcy attorney. So, so I know when we were going through the, sort of the global recession back in 2000, early or late 2010, 2009, during that time, I had just been on the council a couple of years, and we were facing a Chapter 9, which is a municipal and a government. And I used to work on Chapter 7s, 11s, and 13s. Those are more personal consumer bankruptcies and corporate bankruptcies. But it was really scary to think that the city could be facing what the county faced years ago. So once the county, I think, came out of that bankruptcy, I think there's been a different mindset where you just, you don't expend more than you have. You're prudent. You're really selective about who you do business with, and that's, I think, a culture that's remained, and it's been a healthy one for us. So.
Yeah.
A lot of concern about the local zoning and the changes about the housing and increased, backyard units and some of the. Who has the most power? Is it the state that imposes their will on the county, or does the county have more say? How would you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it's sort of an interplay, right? Sort of a balance. The state really does have has authority, and it's really when you talk about sort of whose authority is stronger, it's probably the states. There's local control that we have on certain loaning, on certain local zoning practices. I know that in Santa Ana, we tried to retain some authority regarding ADUs, and I think that's what you're talking about, right? So, and also just what's called RHNA numbers, right? So it's a regional housing necessity allocation. So the state is realizing that we have a lot more need for housing than there's inventory. So there's some cities that have done really well. So Santa Ana has built out a lot more units, a lot more inventory. There's some cities that resist that. How do you find the balance? I think Orange has done a really good job in doing that. I think that they were just recognized last week for an award-winning development called the Valencia. And it's a development that is for affordable units. I believe, I don't know how many units there were, Barry, at the 62 units. And it's a development that is for families. It's multi-family development, large units. And so the answer, I think, is really one that is both the local municipal government working with the state. County really doesn't dictate how many units they go in, nor the compliance efforts, right? I think it's more our cities being advocates and saying, we only have so many areas to grow. Orange, I think, is meeting theirs. I think they've done their housing element, and that's really the governing document that tells you how many units can be, how many units you want to introduce. The county is further behind. The county is required by the state to develop about 10,000 units between now and 2030. So we're pretty behind on our development, but we do know that we want to continue being part of the solution in developing units in an intelligent way and not overcrowding, as well. So it's a conversation that sort of, it's an interplay between, again, local government and state government.
Well, we have about 5 minutes left. Is there any, I guess, before I head into some announcements, is there any final words that you have for the business community? Any way we can get involved more with your office, help you out? What can we do for you?
Just call Yas. She's happy to go. That's the easiest thing to do.
I now have her cell number, so this is great. I won't. I promise.
But I do want to just make sure that you all know that, feel free to call the office, and there's any one of us that will be able to help out. We have some dedicated staff specifically to the city of Orange.
Nice.
So Carlos 𝘊𝘨𝘴 is a good name to remember. Carlos, works really closely with the city manager here and knows all things Orange. So he knows your community well, and we do as well. So we just want to make sure you had a question.
Yeah. I'm from Medley. We're a nonprofit that works with the entire region, with Orange and with all the other districts around to provide opportunities for students to help get them to work. One way that we do that is to get their foot in the door through internships. And we've had a little bit of a harder time with businesses because business schoolers, and I totally get how internships utilize your office to help push people, help encourage them.
Totally. So make sure you, and we have job fairs that that occur throughout the county. I think we're about to have a job fair at the airport. So at John Wayne Airport, they're going to be looking for people to help staff. Our OC Parks did a job fair. So these different departments and areas, and we've got great assets. Again, one of the things I didn't talk about is that the airport that we have is growing. It's now beyond pre-pandemic levels. So a lot of people are traveling again, and that's a good thing for our economy and commerce. They need people, right? So to the extent we can match people up with those opportunities at the airport, at parks, those are great things. We do internships at our office as well. So if you have any students, that are who want to get experience, let us know, as well. But yeah, and so it's a great place to learn, and we do strong letters of rec, by the way.
That's always good to
That always
know.
helps.
Well, with that, thank you so much. If you could hang tight for 1 sec,
Sure.
I would love to just do some quick announcements. We have our very famous and very fun May Parade coming up. Who is going to be out with us on May 4th? I hope that everyone, Dr. Jason, everyone come out. It's going to be so fun. It'll be a great morning. That's going to be on May 4th. I believe it starts at 10 a.m. Yes. Okay, so we'd love to see you guys all there. Do we have any sponsorships left? Any availability? Or?
Of course, we always have fun.
It's not too late to become a sponsor. So just if you guys would like to do that, contact our office and go ahead and get in. It's going to be a great morning. Also, we have our business networking group. That's going to be on the first and third Wednesdays. Our next meeting is April 17th, and that is at Zito's Pizza. Our mixer that we have coming up is on the 25th at Local Gym Collective. Ribbon cuttings, we have one on the 18th at American Barbershop. And our next Eggs and Issues guest is actually in the room, and this doesn't happen very often. That is going to be Mr. Aaron Scholes, our Economic Development Manager. So looking
I
forward
set the
to
bar very low for you, by the way. All right.
Looking forward to chatting with Aaron next month, so make sure you join us. That's going to be in 5 weeks because we're a week early, so we'll see you on the 4th Tuesday for that. Make sure you follow us on social media. We've got a great social media team. Patty Cordova here is in charge of that, and so she's done a great job of posting every single thing that we're doing, so make sure you're following us there. We're so happy to be back here at Orange Cafe. So Orange Cafe, Sean, thank you so much. Our Chairman Circle sponsors, our members, our board of directors, our staff, our community, we thank you, and we will see you next month. Thank you.
Good stuff.